So, Steph, do you want to pop up here? Stefanie Dobro, hey. I'll keep the applause going. She's not here yet. Like, whoa. Hello, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you.
The last gig of the day. No, drinks for the last. Drinks the last. Okay, good. So Steph, you've had, by the way, if you have a chance to have a look at Steph's session from Business of Real Estate last year, it was recorded, yeah. So that would be fantastic. And just as a heads up, someone is on the main stage at Business of Real Estate 2026. Round of applause. So, Steph, amazing journey, setting up White House and going through that particular process. We're going to really lean into building and developing talent. And you've had a lot of people who you've known or been in somewhere in Steph's world, or you've somehow been in their world, but they've actually come and joined the team. Connie, who we're going to actually see tomorrow at the team day. Could we talk a little bit about your approach to culture, your approach to talent, your approach to team?
We sure can. So my brand's been going for 6.5 years, and it was set up very much as a values-driven brand. I really wanted to lean into my authenticity, and that's something I really want to highlight about Jordan. What I love is he does strud as Jordan. He isn't shaping himself to be something else or to fit a mold of an older agent. He is who he is, and he leads with authenticity. And, you know, you can see Jordan having sushi with his child or in front of his team, and it's the same person. And that's very much what I wanted to create for myself. I felt like where I was previously, I was fitting into the way that they operated, and I really wanted to lean into who I was, which was quite a strong feminine energy, as opposed to the sort of more alpha male traditional real estate agent. And so I led the brand. I chose to go white and I'm very aligned with my brand across the brand. And the values were very much about open and transparent and clarity and light and bright. And what I set out to do was really to, instead of, I think in our industry, the focus is always on chasing. It's always about chasing and poaching and trying to steal people and win people. I just wanted to attract people and have the same kind of company that I had set up as an agent. And so that's what I did. And when I left where I was very worried about being on my own, like going from a big team where I was helping a lot of people to just being in an office with myself and my assistant who helped me set up. And it was this incredible relief because I only had to look after myself. And I got to be exactly who I wanted to be and run the business the way I wanted to. And what ended up happening was it did exactly what I wanted it to do, was it attracted the people who were aligned to me. And that happened both for personal sales, at a personal sales level, but also in terms of recruitment. And the first agent that I brought on, I had sold a property for her family 10 years earlier, and she had always admired me, and she had wanted to go into real estate, had a couple of kids, and I didn't think the timing was right. She went with another agency, and I could see she was doing so well. But I could also see that her boss wanted to keep a lid on who she was. She was allowed to be good, but not as good as him. And then he found out that she was speaking to me, and he said, "I'm going to change." And I was like, "That's okay. Like, you can stay there. I'll help you. It doesn't matter, even if you're a competitor." But I knew in my heart that he wasn't going to change and that eventually she would come. And she came. And so we went from 2 to 4. And one of the things with the business that I came from, and a lot of real estate companies, because we're all sales target oriented, there were these incredible target trips that we went on. And fortunately, I was in my 40s and I had a lot of fun. We did things like we went to the Grand Prix and we went to Bali and we did amazing things. But what that does in my opinion, for me as a working mother, We had drinks on a Friday afternoon at the end of each month to celebrate the wins of the team. But what that meant for me as a mother was that at 4 o'clock, I couldn't pick my kids up. And I had to go get my kids and drop them off or get somebody else to pick them up. And now I'd go have a drink. And I had to be there because I was one of the, leaders in the business. So I made a decision right from the beginning that my business was going to be about family, because real estate is a family lifestyle. It is a lifestyle, and you need to bring the whole family on board. So what we started to do, initially it started with lunches, and it still continues today. On a Tuesday after our sales meeting, I probably twice a month rather than 4 times, I cook lunch for the whole team. We have a team lunch with everyone in the company invited. But what we also did was we started having family night, and that continues today. So it used to be quarterly, it's probably every 6 months now, but we have the whole team and their spouses and their kids. In Connie's case, her children who are in their 30s come with her grandchildren, and we go to a pub and we put on the food, open bar for a couple of hours, and it's an amazing culture, and that's how I attract people. It's amazing culture because all the teenagers come, the parents come, like everyone, the partners come, and it's an opportunity for me to go around to the family and say, oh, we're so lucky to have your mum in the business, she's amazing. And you get that family buy-in, which then of course spreads, because those agents see, so agents in other companies see how did that person grow so much? And they just feel really supported. And my whole business was based on, what John said, and Spiro said it, if you look after the people, they will look after the clients. And that's basically been the model of recruitment.
Awesome. So now,
I don't think that answered your question, but
it's a great backstory in terms of the philosophy you have around the business. So now sitting down with someone, and you've got you've got case study after case study after case study that someone had, they were writing 250 for the last 3 years kind of thing. So if someone's done 100, 250, 500, 750, a mil, that's a pattern. But if someone's been stuck at the 250 in another environment and they come and join you, can we talk about that what you're actually doing in developing your people?
Yep. So it all started with, I'll just give you an example. So Carly, who works with me, she was writing 180. Actually, I've had a few people who've joined who've been at 180, and they're now $1 million plus. And part of it is, I was saying to somebody earlier, that people often don't see in themselves what you see in them, or they know it's in there, but they're afraid to step into it. They don't want to believe that they're actually $1 million writer or that they're capable. And with Carly, she was a friend of mine who I'd recruited to another company, and we caught up for a coffee about 18 months after I'd left that company. And I could see she was just floundering, like she wasn't going anywhere, very capable. And I just sat down with her, and we had this coffee, and I said, how are you going? And she's like, oh, it's really hard. And I said, you're really good at what you do. You could be doing a lot better numbers. I said, why don't we just play a little game? And why don't you list 2 properties and sell 1 in the next 2 weeks? Why don't we put that as a goal for you to just try and do that? Because I know you're capable of doing it. You've got the stock to sell that property, and you said you've got a couple of listing appointments. And she phones me about 2.5 weeks later, and she said, I don't know what you did, but I've just I listed 2 properties and I've just sold 1. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. She's like, can we catch up again? And part of it was, and so we caught up again, and she said, I want to come work for you. And the timing wasn't right for me. And I think as a leader as well, this is something that's been critical for me. I don't want to bring people on unless I have the time to commit to helping them be a success, and that they've got the drive. I'm not going to do the work, I will support them. But she said, oh, I want to come, I've got all these listings coming up. And I said, I don't want you to bring any of your listings from the other company. I want to be completely respectful about that. And she's like, yeah, but I've got all these. I'm like, no, I think just go and list and sell them. When the time's right, it will all come together. And in the end, she phones me and she says,
It's called an anti-recruiting strategy, just in case you're wondering. So, yes, it's a reverse
if you want them,
recruiting strategy.
then want you more. And the end, she calls me and she says, I just sold in 1 month 5 properties. I finished top of the sales team. And she said, and now I've resigned. And I'm like, great. And so I think it's about, and Connie is a great example. She's, as Georgie was saying, she's 65. She's killing it. She's on track to write 2 million this year and absolutely loving life. She's been to the Maldives. She's been on the True North. She flew over early yesterday to come over and just have a day to relax. And watching her achieve her dreams as a leader, that was probably the highlight for me, even though we grew the business by 40% last year. Watching the impact that this is having on my team's families is massive. And so much so, we've created such a family business that it was initially an all-female business by accident, but we've had a number of women sales reps who are very strong. 2 of the sales reps' husbands have just left their jobs to join the company to support their wives, which is pretty incredible.
Cool. So can we talk about, let's say, when Connie came in, she was writing what?
Yep. Connie was writing, she had her best year ever. She wrote 750.
750, okay. So you're sitting down with someone clearly capable.
Yep.
Would you agree, guys? Someone who's writing that, she's clearly capable. So how did you shift her runway, mindset, thinking?
So what I do, Jack is the one who told me always to know my numbers. So I was always ruthless about knowing my numbers. And I know Baden said not everyone needs to know their numbers. Maybe that's true, but in my business, everyone needs to know their numbers. And because I think knowing your numbers gives you something to focus on and also to see that it's a formula. If you make X number of calls that leads to this number of appraisals that will lead to, if you do the work, it can happen if you're prepared to make the commitment. And so my strategy is I do one-on-ones with each of my team members, and it started with Louise, who wouldn't have known numbers to save her life. And you start doing it, you start tracking it. And so my one-on-ones, they start with the individual as a person. And it's about how are things at home? Because if things aren't going well at home, then it's going to show up in your business. So I really start off with how are you? How are the kids? Somebody else was saying it this morning about, or was it you, Angie, asking about the kids? And just knowing about their families is a big thing. I know that when Carly joined, she's like, I was with the company for 5 years. They didn't know the name of my kids. And so finding out how they're going, and sometimes the conversation is about that for more, like it's usually a 30-minute one-on-one every fortnight. They're slotted in, and it might be 20 minutes sometimes about the family and then quickly about the business, because once they've got the family stuff out of the way, they can focus on the business. And then we just track their numbers, and we go through all their appraisals and listing and pipeline. And now it's been so effective that Connie comes in and knows down to the dollar how much she's written in GCI and what she needs to get to her goal. So it's very effective. And we've seen massive increase. Like once they start tracking it, so Louise is always dropping her fees and having really low fees. And once we started tracking it, you can see that they will take a greater interest in protecting their fee or creating a performance fee. And we've seen massive increase in fees.
So what I'm hearing, there's a really cool rhythm, like a fortnightly rhythm, with the team, and I'm also hearing that there's a real energy towards that point of better people make for better real estate professionals. So let's start with the person first.
Yep.
Is there anything we need to clear? How are you travelling? And then clearly, by focusing on the formula, you're letting people know all you need to do is this, or all you need to do is this, or if you tweak this or change this around. And yes, I have said to Melbourne agencies, by the way, whenever I get the opportunity, that congratulations, you're heading the fees towards a zero base. It's a fantastic thing that Melbourne is doing. So I just want to acknowledge how great a job Melbourne is doing with that. Simon, did you hear that? Yep.
Queensland's helping prop them up at the other end.
Queensland's actually doing a very good job of propping them up. But I think the key thing, by shining the torch on those things, what you're doing is you're helping someone see, and then what do you play the sort of the what if game? So what if you did this, or what if you did that?
Yeah, basically at the end of the meeting, I asked them, and what support do you need from me? So what do we need to do differently to help you move ahead? And so, yeah.
Yeah, great.
And I do the what if. What if you made some more calls? What if you did this? What if you called all your owners who've bought since 2020 and told them that their properties have doubled in value?
Yeah, great. So you're doing a little shine the torch on a strategy, just sprinkling something in there that's right for the person, and what they can do to sort of shift their performance.
Yeah. I think people shouldn't underestimate the value of giving your sales team or in PM as well, but your time. That's what they want. They want to know that they're a priority for you and that you're not just scooping up your share of the commission. They want to know that you're prepared to invest their time, that they're valued as a human. Yeah.
And how do you stay present in those conversations? Because I've seen, watches ping, phones ping, all that sort of stuff. Do you sort of like that, make that sort of a bit of a cone of silence?
Yeah, everything that we talk about in there is confidential. But I'll just mention, I had this really incredible experience, and I was sharing it with Georgie, and I've shared it with Michael before. I worked out with Oprah in Sydney in December. And the thing that probably the greatest takeaway from that experience, which happened by chance and was extraordinary, and I got to spend some time with her afterwards, was how present she is. She is totally tuned into who you are, what you're about. She listens actively. She repeats things back to you, totally engaged. And the way she makes you feel like you are the only person in the room. And if you can do that with your people, like it's just the most magical thing. And you can just see she just spreads this joy and kindness and uplifting energy everywhere she goes.
And what happened is, after the workout, which is you do a downward dog or something like a yoga pose, or planking. You're planking. That's right. After the planking, there was a photo taken with Steph and Oprah, and here she is the next day or later on that day. Oprah's EA was looking for Steph to invite you and a couple of your friends to a private function. And the next day, Oprah's presenting to how many people? 8,500, just a small audience. And whose picture's up on the screen here? It's Steph and Oprah, and talking about this amazing sort of experience. And that's where luck and preparation and opportunity all come together. Would you agree? Yeah. Brilliant. Incredible insights around building talent. Would you agree? Okay. Round of applause for Steph.